Good evening. I call the January 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Park Hill Board of Education to order. Mr. Monses is absent this evening. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for silencing your phones tonight. I would like to remind the board of our norms. Be prepared, be an active listener, be mission driven, stay in the role of a board member, embody integrity, and be respectful. And of our district vision statement, building successful futures, each student every day. Board members, any announcements this evening? Ms. Barnes.
Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone, 2025. I just want to say that on Tuesday I attended the Park Hill Hall of Fame, and I want to say that our students are amazing, our staff is amazing, our community members, and just all the effort that was put into that, and our alumni. If you've never been to that event, you really should come just to see all the things that everybody offers and how exciting it is. So kudos to everybody that was in that event.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. That was a great event. Mr. Todd.
I don't have any tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Woodley.
I just want to ditto what Ms. Barnes said. It was a great event, and wanted to highlight that if you haven't seen any of the highlights from our the Park Hill District's website or the platforms for social media, go out and check out the pictures, the explanations, but also Grayson Bells, which was our DIB champion student winner recipient. His speech was amazing, gave you chills. It's just amazing what our students know intrinsically and what they give to their other peers. So just kudos to our Park Hill students.
Thank you, Ms. Woodley. Ms. Boland?
None, thank you.
Mrs. Barber?
None, thank you.
Dr. Kimbrell, do you have any additional announcements?
I do. I'd like to welcome some familiar faces to some new roles and new faces to our Park Hill family. I think we've got a handful in our audience tonight. So we've had several administrator hires and announcements that we've made over the last month since we've last met. So I'd like to recognize Dr. Sarah McQuinn. She, I think, is right. Yeah, she's waving but refusing to stand up. She is the new principal at English Landing Elementary School, home of the Eagles, and she currently serves as assistant principal at Prairie Point Elementary. She's been with Park Hill since 2011 when she started as a special ed teacher at Russell Jones. She's also been at Southeast and worked in our professional studies lead program facilitator. So congratulations. Welcome to that new role, and we look forward to working with you. We also have familiar face Zana McCauley, who has accepted the position for Tiffany Ridge Elementary Principal for next year. She is currently the assistant principal at Chin Elementary. She joined Park Hill in 2008 as a fourth grade teacher at Line Creek, and she's also served as the school's reading interventionist. Prior to teaching in Park Hill, she taught in Smithville, and we look forward to having her as a leader at Tiffany Ridge. Congratulations. A new face for our Park Hill family is Catherine Bell. Catherine is going to be our principal at Hawthorne Elementary next school year. She comes to us from the Kansas City Public Schools system, where she currently serves as an assistant principal at Faxon Elementary. She's also served as an academic instructional coach and reading and math interventionist for KCPS, as well as teacher in Grandview and Imagine Renaissance Academy. Congratulations. Welcome to Park Hill. Another new face to our family is Mallory Tyler. Mallory is going to be our assistant principal at Line Creek Elementary. She comes to Park Hill from Kansas City Public Schools as well, where she currently serves as the assistant principal of the Foreign Language Academy. She's also served as an admin intern and instructional coach for Kansas City Public Schools, as well as summer school principal at Academy Lafayette. Welcome, and we look forward to working with you. final one I have for you, board. I can't remember if I announced this last December or not, but we have Ashley Van Horn is in the audience. And if there she is. And did I announce last time? No. Okay, great. It's been a long month. Fantastic. That's that snow. Early morning. Dr. Van Horn is going to be in the position of Coordinator of Innovation and Library and Media Services for this next year. We've revamped that role with a retirement, and she will be filling in that role. She's currently the Assistant Principal at Line Creek Elementary and has served the district as a classroom teacher and library media specialist. We can't wait to have her in this role and love working with Ashley. Congratulations. So we've been busy, and I'll keep bringing those back to you. Thank you for the time.
Okay. All right, we'll now move on to the adoption of the agenda. I will need a motion and a second to adopt the January 23rd, 2025 agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Todd and a second by Ms. Barnes to adopt the agenda as presented. Dr. Kimbrell, are there any modifications tonight?
No, none tonight.
Board, do we have any modifications? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, we'll now move on to item 3, recognitions and awards, and I'll turn it over to Mrs. Wachel.
All right, good evening. Lydia, come up here, please. You're first. Our first recognition tonight is around Missouri All-State Choir. Hi, Lydia. Come stand right here next to me, please, so they can see you. And we're recognizing tonight seniors from Park Hill South who are earning spots in the prestigious Missouri All-State Choir. Lydia Ham, you're an alto, is that correct? And then we have 2 others. Artemis Custer, she's a soprano. She couldn't be here tonight. And then Ben Smith, he's actually on a college visit performing his vocal talents tonight in Arkansas, so he couldn't be here. But Lydia, congratulations. You're going to be performing at the Missouri Music Educators Association Conference in January. Have you already done that? Is it coming up? It's coming up. Okay, next week in January. All right, congratulations, Lydia, on being a Missouri All-State Choir student. Yay. Do you want to say anything, Lydia? Promise? You want to sing for us? Okay. Okay. The board would love to shake your hand. Congratulations. And Sarah Schulte, wave, teacher extraordinaire, choir, Park Hill South. And Lydia, are you a parent here, Lydia? Dad. Hello, Dad. Wave too. Thanks for being here, guys. Next, if you're a Project Adam certified school rep, come on up. You're next. We have some principals here, maybe. We have some maybe nurses here. Tammy, Tammy, you come up. I'm told you're coming up. Come on. Come on, Tammy. Yes, this is good. Don't be shy. This is amazing. Okay, so throughout the next couple months, we're going to be recognizing all of our Project Adam schools. Come here, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Project Adam is in almost all of our schools at this point. We'll be recognizing several schools over the course of the next few months. Project Adam is this. Certified schools that have a cardiac emergency response team, so CERT team, and they've implemented emergency response drills in their buildings. We're on track, like I just said, to have every school Project Adam certified by 2025. The goal is to save lives by empowering schools to be prepared for a cardiac emergency with a practice plan. Congratulations. Tonight we have Russell Jones, Chin, Union Chapel, Prairie Point, and Tiffany Ridge, and Tammy Saylor, who helps oversee all the program. Congratulations. All right, Dr. Kimbrell, you're up. Thank you. I have all the certificates, we'll do it on the hall after you do this, just so you know.
So if you are a first semester Star Award winner, can you please come up and line right up here? I think there's quite a few of you here tonight. Yay. You can go all the way down. All right, so many of you in the room know that one of the things that I do on a monthly basis is we have the Park Hill Star Award, and it is centered around nominations that come in based on our core values. And those core values are continuous improvement, high expectations, integrity, visionary leadership, equity, and student focus. And we get those different nominations through our online portal. Many of you may have done nominations. We get dozens and dozens per month. And then we recognize and choose one winner that is a secondary star, an elementary star, and then a support staff star. We've actually even, yeah, there is. We've started a quarterly administrative star as well. And so this has been a really it's one of my favorite things to do. I get to go into the building. There's a camera crew behind me, and we do it live on Facebook and all the fun stuff. Kids love it. And these are our best, and we've got awesome stars all the way across our district. And so we wanted to recognize them tonight. What I'm going to do is have each of you introduce yourselves, what your role is, and where your location is for your job.
Hello, I'm Joey Cartwright. I am a specialized teaching assistant at Graydon Elementary.
Hello, my name is Kara Lane. I am a school counselor at Walden Middle School.
Good evening, I'm Ayana Anderson. I'm 8th grade reading teacher at Plaza Middle School.
Hello, I'm Chris North. I am the head custodian at Prairie Point Elementary.
Hello, I'm Bailey Schomburg. I teach 4th grade at Chin Elementary.
I'm Sasha Kalis, and I'm principal at Tiffany Ridge.
I am Brendan Domingo, and I am a kindergarten teacher at the English Landing.
And I am Rob Milner, assistant principal at Park Hill South High School.
So as you can see, it is a diverse group of people that we recognize from all of our work groups. And that is something that's very important to us about recruiting and retaining our staff. Thank you guys for everything that you do, for the model that you guys put forth for our other employees, but just know that we really, really appreciate you. I think the board would like to shake all of your hand and have a wonderful night. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And that's all for tonight.
All right, next we'll move on to public comment. During this part of our agenda, we will receive public comments from patrons who pre-registered by the noon deadline today. We had 2 patrons pre-register. When called upon by the board president, patrons are to approach the presenter station, speak into the microphone and state your name before making comments. Each speaker will have a 3-minute time limit. The board secretary will monitor the time. Please direct your comments to the entire board. Generally, the board members will not provide any response during public comment. However, if needed, board members and/or district staff may provide a response at a later time. Discussion about individual staff members or students is not allowed. Our first comment is from Jarrett Bendur. Please approach the presenter station.
Hello, my name is Jarrett Bendur. Good evening. I'm here to speak about my concern with the current policy on inclement weather days regarding Adventure Club. The current policy on inclement weather days is as follows. If school is canceled because of inclement weather, Adventure Club in prime time will be open. Non-school day and inclement weather day hours of operation are from 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. On late start days, they continue at normal operating hours as well. This creates a harsh window that not only puts Adventure Club workers, but parents and children in danger as well. Whenever there are inclement weather days and an AMI day is announced, we combine into two different locations. The two locations are English Landing and Renner. Inclement weather causes workers and parents to take an unfamiliar route to school with little to no plowing for side streets and main roadways. And with a 6:30 a.m. open time for students, workers are having to leave at 5:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. to get to work on time with hazardous road conditions and often inclement weather still coming down. On AMI days, the current operating hours for school are from 9 a.m. to 3:40 p.m. And the non-school days for Adventure Clubs are meant to be for out-of-school care. They are not meant to be put in a position of operating in the middle of inclement weather. This is another case of workers and parents driving on roads that are not plowed, not salted, and an unfamiliar route during inclement weather. If schools operate from 9 a.m. to 3:40, is there a way that we can have Adventure Club have a later start time or be canceled due to inclement weather events? And we recently just had one. Current other school districts in the area, North Kansas City operates from 7:15 to 6 p.m. Liberty operates at one location from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the Shawnee Mission School District has a separate program for inclement weather that operates from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. When districts allow for Adventure Clubs to start at a later time when inclement weathers, it is a better solution than pretending that everything operates as normal. Weather and road conditions are impacting travel, and especially recently with that last snowstorm, the side streets were not plowed for multiple days after the snow has stopped. Please consider making changes to the current inclement weather policies. If possible, canceling Adventure Club whenever the district cancels school, or at least please make a delayed start for those days a requirement. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bendor, for your coming tonight and your comments. All right, next we have January Carter. Can you please approach the presenter station?
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
My name is January Carter. I have a son in 5th grade at Hawthorne Elementary. He's been in the Park Hill School District since 2016. I wish to speak to you today regarding an email I recently received from the leadership at Hawthorne. This email was to inform us parents of 2 changes we would be having in our building and in our district. Change number 1, no Valentine's Day parties. Change number 2, no exchanging of Valentines. For explanation of these changes, I'll read paragraph 2 of the email. In keeping with the change, we will not be exchanging Valentines at Hawthorne. We understand the holidays are very important to our entire community. We will continue the practice of recognizing holidays at school without celebrating holidays. There are many opportunities for students to participate in holiday celebrations with their families, community groups, or friends outside of school. While we're at school, we'll focus on creating opportunities that all students will be able to enjoy without the need for students to opt out of activities. Let me start with some history. Valentine's Day began 1,500 years ago in the year 496 AD. In the 14th and 15th century, Valentine's Day became associated with romantic love. In the 18th century, people began exchanging flowers and candy and cards known as Valentines. In the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution produced factory-made cards. In fact, our very own Hallmark here in Kansas City started producing Valentine's cards in 1913. I Googled, what are the objectives of Valentine's Day in school? Google AI informed me Valentine's Day in school helps students learn about showing appreciation, gratitude, and respect for others. That seemed like something all students could enjoy and probably wouldn't want to opt out of. It went on. It can also help students develop social and emotional learning skills. That seems like something kids have been struggling with since COVID. It also seems like something that all students could enjoy and benefit from. Valentine's Day has been part of our tradition in the United States of America since the 1930s. For many of us, making those Valentine's boxes and passing out little cards to our friends and classmates hold core childhood memories, and we reflect on those joyfully. When my son started kindergarten in 2019, we did donuts with dad, muffins with mom. We celebrated Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Valentine's Day, and then we shut down for COVID. Since Park Hill School District opened back up from COVID, I've watched a lot of fun things fade away. It was sad to me, but I can understand that there's a need for change. However, I cannot fathom what is so exclusionary, offensive, or inequitable about Valentine's Day, especially since the school has referred to it as Friendship Day for as long as I can remember. Friendship parties allow children to relate to each other and unite around a shared experience. It creates opportunity for them to be part of our American tradition and culture. It allows busy parents the opportunity to be in the classroom, meet other parents, and be around the students. If there's a financial barrier, we can deal with that. It would be a great time to be inclusive of our community. We could make Valentine's for the policemen or firemen or for nursing homes. It's hard to get behind the idea that Valentine's Day celebrations cause harm for children. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right. We'll now move on to item 5, consent agenda. Before I call for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, are there any items that need highlighted, Dr. Kimber?
The only one is a reminder that number 5.14 on the approval of the installation of aggregate piers at the Aquatic Center is a ask of the board to waive the first read. This is something that we found during construction, and we went ahead and did do the work, and now we are asking the board for that approval so that we may pay that bill. This is through contingency funds and the 2022 bond funds, and so that was something we planned on, and those are the type of things that we run into with foundation issues, but we'd be happy to answer any other questions on this item or others.
Board, any questions? All right, seeing none, I will need a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 5.2 through 5.16 as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, I have a motion from Mrs. Woodley and a second by Mr. Todd to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, we'll now move on to our action items for tonight. 6.1 is approval of the 2025 to 2026 academic calendar. Dr. Kimball, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so we actually have reposted the presentation that we presented. If you remember, Dr. Dillon and Mandy Frere from PHNEA presented the academic calendar draft proposal at the December 12th board meeting. We have no additional information with that, so you can see that in your packet. We'd be happy to answer any questions before you take action, but we're asking this proposed calendar to be acted upon tonight by the board.
Thank you.
Board, any discussions? Okay. Then I'll need a motion and a second to approve the 2025 to 2026 academic calendar as presented.
So moved. Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mrs. Barber and a second by Ms. Barnes to approve the 2025-2026 academic calendar as presented. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, we'll now move on to item 6.2, adopt resolution calling an election in the Park Hill School District of Platte County, Missouri, Proposition G, operating tax levy. Dr. Kimbrell, Kelly, and Dillon.
Yeah, so we are doing something a little different tonight. You'll see in the agenda that we do not have any informational presentations, but we would like to do a short slide deck about information on this particular item. These are pieces of information that you've seen relative to this topic in past board meetings. This is specifically around our systems portion of our strategic plan, and this particular Proposition G is around the operating levy and addressing recruitment and retention of staffs. And so I'm going to turn over to Dr. Kelly. He's going to go through a handful of these slides, and then we would be happy to answer any questions from myself, Dr. Kelly, or Dr. Dillon.
Thank you. As Dr. Kimball mentioned, we have separated a topic that we have been working on kind of collectively over the fall, and we've kind of put those together as we talked about them. Tonight will be the first time that you've heard the Proposition G and the Proposition O, and so we'll start with G. It is the, of course, what we're doing is creating strategies to address our CSIP, and specifically CSIP Goal 3, the systems objective, and within it, really two lanes. One is maximizing human resources. The other is addressing aging facilities. And so these require two different funding sources. And so we have been, this is a very familiar chart for you over the last several months. In this case, Proposition G is the operating or the staff salary, the maximize human resource lane of these two resolutions. You may remember some months back we established what it was we were after. We established a target. How do we define this idea of maximizing human resources? We believe that competitive salaries would be a strategy to address that. And then we established targets. And so you might remember that we defined having competitive salaries with two separate targets. One was addressing beginning salaries, and also then setting up a metric around competitive salaries overall. And so this is all familiar information that you've seen, and there's nothing new there. Because this staff compensation is a recurring annual expenditure, it will require an operating levy increase to bring in the revenue that we'll need to meet these two objectives. And so this is a distinct piece of these two items, and this one is addressing the operating levy. And so we have worked with bond counsel and the team around this language. This is the language that has been, that would be a part of the resolution that you would adopt tonight that's being recommended. And it's also then what would then appear to the letter on the actual ballot on April 8th. And you can kind of read through this. This is the operating levy by which we're proposing a 10-cent increase per $100 of assessed valuation. And that's outlined within the ballot item itself. When you look at them back together, the overall impact would be 30 cents in the overall, 30 cents on the aging facility side, and then, like I said, 10 cents on the recruit and retain staff side. Overall, that would be the potential of a 40-cent total tax increase, which would bring our tax levy to $579.55 per $100 of assessed valuation. You have a resolution, and this is an action item. To meet our timelines, we need to have this into the Platte County Board of Election here in the next couple days. And so this is our last opportunity to bring it to you as a recommendation so that we can meet their timelines.
So with that, we are asking the board to, there's a separate document in the actual item that is the legal resolution that we are putting in front of the board to take action on. We'd be happy to answer any further questions about this particular one, which is the Proposition G, or the one specifically around the operational levy.
Board, what questions do we have? I know we've for anyone tuning in tonight, there's been a lot of work that's gone into this, a lot of research and fact finding, and so we have covered this quite a bit. So I find it kind of fitting that in 2002 was the last time that we increased our tax levy, and that was to get into the top 3 for teacher pay. And 22 years later, we're doing that again to rededicate ourselves to top 5 starting salary and top 3 overall salary. I'm going to vote yes, and I couldn't be more proud to vote yes.
I appreciate us as a board working together and asking the questions and digging in to get all the information we needed to make a good decision tonight. So I have no questions.
All right. Then I will need a motion and a second to adopt a resolution calling an election on April 8th, 2025 in the Park Hill School District of Platte County, Missouri on Proposition G as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, a motion from Mrs. Woodley and a second by Ms. Boland to adopt a resolution calling an election on April 8th, 2025 in the Park Hill School District of Platte County, Missouri on Proposition G as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, moving on to 6.3, we have our Proposition O, adopting a resolution calling an election in the Park Hill School District of Platte County, Missouri. Proposition O, general obligation bonds. Dr. Kimbrell and Kelly, and then Hollis and Miller.
Yeah, so I'll invite our representatives from Hollis and Miller up to the presenter station. Tonight we have Kevin Nelson and Philip Kortenke, who are 2 that you are familiar with, and we have been working with quite a bit on different projects and continuing on these Park Hill 2034 projects and long-term planning. What you're going to see tonight is similar to the last agenda item, which is that we're prepared to do a quick little informational presentation around this particular proposition, Proposition O, which is asking about issuing bonds to be able to address aging facilities. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Kelly. He's going to start, and then we'll also have Philip and Kevin showing us some of the planning that they've been doing.
Again, we're square into CSIP objective number 3 on the systems. This is the aging facilities part. In terms of defining our strategies, that was actually done over the last year and a half. It was actually Hollis and Miller that led the district and the staff to the Park Hill 2034 plan, which is outlined in a graphic that you're familiar with. And so this tonight in this item would actually address the first part of that Park Hill 2034 plan. We're going to have a little further detail and drill down into the individual projects here in just a second. But as a reminder, this is the portion of Park Hill 2034 that we have, as a group, the board has elected to start with. And so that would be the large pieces of the phase replacement at Park Hill High School, and then improvements at Park Hill South, Chin, Line Creek, Southeast, and other capital improvements that are listed in the chart on the right. The thing why these have to be separate is that these are going to require 2 different levy increases. And so when you issue bonds, or when the voters allow us to issue bonds, we'll receive the $128 million, and then we'll go forward with constructing these. But then the voters have to pay that back. And so that is to set a debt service tax levy such that we can take the next 20 years to pay that back. And so what the voters are authorizing is for us to bring in $128 million and then create a debt service levy increase to pay the bondholders back. And so we'll get in more into that when we look at the bond language, but Hollis and Miller does have some renderings of some of these projects and some of the improvements that could potentially be on the list if this passes. So
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. We were excited to be able to work on some conceptual master planning for a couple sites that we want to show you tonight. And what you're seeing is kind of a culmination of information that was gathered even all the way back through designing some of the 2022 bond projects through Park Hill 2034 and then the smaller group for the master plan. Everything that you're seeing is purely conceptual at this point. If and when we get to design these projects, there'll be full design processes coming up with design teams selected. So what you're seeing on the screen may not be the final result, but it does help us kind of understand what's possible out there in a conceptual sort of master plan way. So on the screen right now is the overall site plan, master plan for Park Hill High School campus. And we're going to zoom into a couple areas because this is a large campus to try to see on one screen. So go ahead and go to that next slide there, Dr. Kelly. And Philip, why don't you walk us through just what's on this slide here?
Sure. So this is starting to show the Park Hill High School components of what the master plan is kind of unfolding. You've got the existing buildings up there identified. You've got Park Hill High School Phase 1. So we know this isn't replacing all of Park Hill High School, but this is the first part up there, the oldest part of the building. It happens to be the front door is getting demoed. You can kind of see it in dashed line at the north side up there where the parking is by that number 8. And then on the south side, as I think you guys have seen before in terms of that addition, that number 6 coming in, and that being, as Kevin mentioned, the best position place for that addition to happen to allow for the most flexibility for as that design does take place and start to get into the details of what this is exactly. That is the best position on the site to kind of allow the most flexibility. And then you've got some of those improvements starting to show down there with district improvements, potential of kind of longer term or a little bit further out there maybe in terms of when that number 11 happens and those kind of things. And if we go further down on the site plan there, it's starting to show some of those other pieces that got displaced. So the baseball field needs to be offset somewhere else on the site. And right now, this area down here seems to be a position where that could happen. And then also with some parking and getting some restrooms down there, number 12 potentially being some concessions and other things that could also come in long term. But this is, again, showing the Phase 1 improvements that would happen with the high school and then the district improvements that could happen with the longer plan there. So that's pretty much it for this campus. I think we've also identified the existing, and you can see some of the drives and some of the circulation of the site trying to come in. And I didn't point out on the last slide there, but more parking taking place and kind of shaping the full circulation of the entire campus, not just Park Hill High School. You want me to continue? I can continue. Yeah. So another thing we identified is that front corner. So when the front door of Park Hill High School kind of goes away, there's this idea of this whole place being campus. This is the Berry Road in Congress. We're used to seeing the front door there. Potentially with that new, entry being now on Congress, what do we do here at the front? And so working with KCMO, of course, this is just starting to show again, this will be designed, but this is the front corner that can have a little bit of a presence and identify the entire campus for Park Hill High School and kind of maintain that presence there that corner had originally. And then as we start to get into some of these other renderings, if you step back just one.
Did I bounce to it? Yeah, I'm sorry.
This is just to start showing again the potential of what that front door, new front entry of Park Hill High School might start to look like, playing off of the language of what the new gym that's being constructed right now is coming in. But as Kevin mentioned, these are always just kind of placeholders. This could look completely different once we go through once the architect goes through a process with that. With the team that's selected for it. And if we step inside, there's a few more renderings here just starting to show what that interior space could start to look like. And then we've got one more that's of the courtyard there. Again, outside of that space you were kind of just looking at, but just potential of what these can be, help get the idea out there, generate some excitement, and then knowing we're going to go through that process of design. And some of the things that we talked about with that is just kind of maintaining that legacy what are those things, I think it would be good to go through the first part of the process, and that is, again, kind of coming up with what are those things going to drive that design. And so keeping that idea of the history, the legacy, and all those kind of things embedded in some of the design. And then Park Hill South, there was continued conversation there of what's the master plan, the long range here. There was discussion, I believe, during the last round of the full master plan of the 2034 that the stadium would get some improvements. And so this is the site plans that's starting to show adding bleachers on the home side and press box and pieces like that. And again, a rendering to show what a potential of that could be as it goes through design, but just starting to try to get the excitement out there and show the public of what that starts to look like as you do get a home side bleacher.
Any questions? Do you want to pause here? And does the board have any questions for Kevin or Philip?
No, I don't. It looks great.
Let's see the parking.
The parking. The parking. It paints the picture. It shows us the vision. So I like it.
So as I mentioned, this will take a different type of funding source. This would be, because it's capital outlay, we can sell bonds and then repay those bonds over time. And so that would require an adjustment to the debt service levy over the next 20 years or so. And so you see on this item, which would be a completely separate ballot item that would appear on the April 8th ballot. And this is the language that would be on the ballot. Again, this has been constructed with the team as well as bond counsel to make sure that we're that we've put this fairly and that the voters know exactly what these dollars would be used for. So you can see there's some specificity in the language. And then the financial impact is there at the bottom. This would take 30 cents of a debt service levy to repay the $128 million that we would need to build those projects. So again, this is the exact same slide that you saw in the last presentation, just kind of combining the two items, Proposition G and O. Again, that would require total, if both passed, that would then result in a 40-cent tax increase overall. Again, we have the same time frames, and so what you have before you tonight is a resolution to put this on the ballot so that the voters can weigh in on Park Hill 2034.
I think the last thing that I would offer is that as I've been doing just superintendent presentations around the district, I've had a question come up about, why can't we do Plaza and Union Chapel and Park Hill High School at once? Why don't we do this all at one time? And kind of clarity about Park Hill 2034. That is the year 2034, and the goal is that we would achieve and have all of these projects done by 2034. The problem we have is we have a debt ceiling that is at a point where, because of how much we've been building, we have a limit on what we can offer in terms of bonds. And so because of that, we're having to do these projects first that we identified as priority, and then we would later on come back with the goal again. Park Hill 2034, the goal is to have a new plaza, new Union Chapel as well by that year. But this would be the first step on that. So that's something I've heard when I've been in buildings, and just wanted to clarify that for the board and public while we're in this meeting.
And just a reminder, that's the Missouri Constitution dictates that the debt we can issue is 15% of our assessed value, which is 350 something million.
I have to ask Dr. Kelly.
And we have 128 left.
Certainly in the ballpark, yes.
Yeah. I would just like to point out how much this ties to the CSIP of aging facilities. So in the presentation, so Park Hill High School, Southeast, Lion Creek, Chin, and then, phase 2 is Union Chapel and Plaza. And Union Chapel is kind of an outlier because it's not the oldest, but has the lowest score. But those are all of our oldest buildings, and we're targeting those. So I feel like we're really focused in on that. We are focusing on that CSIP, and that's the buildings we landed on, so.
I'd like to just point out, I mean, we get all the time, emails or people coming to us talking about, I was over at such and such district and their stuff is looking like this. And so this is an opportunity for us to have our buildings look the way we want it to look, especially our high school, since it's used a lot for several events, basketball, different events, people coming into for debate and various events. So this is an opportunity to fix our high school and make it like when you go to those other schools you tell us about all the time.
And to piggyback off that, this would be 57955 would put us 19 cents above and change above North Kansas City and 13 cents below Liberty. So right in between.
Thank you. Thank you.
The board will need to adopt the resolution, a separate resolution. So.
Right. Okay. All right, any other discussion, board? Again, a lot of work went into this. Dr. Kelly mentioned, I remember the first in-person community session. There was one on Wednesday at Park Hill, and then there was one on Thursday at Park Hill South. And it was the Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions first game of the year. Not this football season, last football season, 2023. So we've been working on this a while, and we ended up having 8 in-person sessions. We've gotten thousands of survey responses. You've done all sorts of meetings inside the buildings to get, so all of this feedback is the culmination of that. Thank you for everyone that put in all this hard work.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there's no other discussions, I will need a motion and a second to adopt a resolution calling an election on April 8th, 2025 in the Park Hill School District of Platte County, Missouri on Proposition O as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Todd and a second by Ms. Boland to adopt a resolution calling an election on April 8th, 2025 in the Park Hill School District of Platte County, Missouri on Proposition O as presented. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstained? Okay, motion carries 6-0. All right, we have one last action item here, and that's the approval of the receipt of December 2024 Treasurer's Information Report. Quarterly update to the Board of Education. Dr. Kimbrels and Dr. Kell.
Yeah, I'll turn this over to Dr. Kelly. A reminder to the board that this is something that we do on a quarterly basis, and this is from the December 2024 Treasurer's Information Report. Dr. Kelly?
Yeah, you will also see in the board agenda, and it was under consent, the November as well, because of the single board meetings and the fact in December and in November, those were relatively early. We got a little behind, and so now we're caught up. The December item is the one that I'm presenting tonight because it's the latest item. And so I've highlighted a couple things. There really is no information on here that causes any red flags or anything that I want to point out that to keep a watch on, other than maybe a handful of things just as reminders. I've highlighted the very first top line here because that's the one that when you look at this next month for January, that's where all the money will have come in for tax revenue. And so you're seeing that we're ultimately looking at about 126 or expecting about 126 million. And the majority of that will have already been received actually in January. So that's an important line for us, and there really is no red flags. We're pacing a little ahead of where we were last year, and so that's a good sign at 11.3% of our budget. Some of these, because December represents 6 months into the fiscal year, when you see 50% of the budget, that means that's probably a revenue item that comes into regular intervals. And so Prop C is a good example by which after 6 months, we've received half of that revenue. Prop C is a good one in which it's a steady sort of monthly. Others are pretty erratic and it depends on other variables. but that 50-cent marker on some of those is a good sign. And any place that we exceed that, that's an even better sign in terms of overall meeting our budget goals. Another good example of that is the set in state sources. So these are regular items, and you can see that we're pacing ahead of the 50%. That's a good sign, but the state formula comes in relatively equal intervals, and so we're right at our budget number as we look at and we plan out the next 6 months. And so again, that's a positive sign. Federal revenue is actually very erratic, so not a lot to gather there. There's nothing, though, that I know anecdotally that would cause me any concern here. These are all fairly typical for federal. And while that large revenue item of $77 million didn't occur in December, I just want to remind you that's going to be it's going to stand out. That was that last bond sale from the April 22 election, and I know that's going to get confusing if it's not already, and that you've just approved another ballot item, and these are the bonds that were sold. But this was actually the second set of bonds that were sold when the voters approved the last bond issue. So that final $77 million is reflected there on the Treasurer's report. Our expenditures, there's some of these items that we're already a little over. So if we're pacing above 100%, that's not a good sign. The two that stand out would be workers' comp and our general liability insurance. Those rates just increased higher than we had anticipated when we budgeted. And so those are, but those are, we're done with those payments. Those are one-time payments. And so that is as bad as it'll be for the remainder of the year. And so I've highlighted workers' comp as well as this line on page 3 for insurance. Other than employee benefits, that's actually our general liability insurance. And so both of the rates there came in higher than we budgeted, as I said. And then the other area that is higher than we had budgeted is not really the same problem. It's just that we're spending money on our capital improvements faster. It's not that they're more expensive or that we didn't plan in terms of the cost or that we're over budget. It's that, and Angeline Washington is a great example by which we're just pacing ahead. And so our expenditures are occurring faster. And that means that each of those projects will be done sooner than we had originally planned for. So that's a good sign. This is not a problem that we're over budget. Again, this is simply a timing issue on those lines. We have the revenue, and part of it is that $77 million that we got when you saw that above. So last sheet, again, is kind of or the second to last sheet is the summary of our fund balances. December generally is when we will have our low point of our operating fund balance, and so I've highlighted that. So we hit the low point in December of having $15.8 million of operating cash, and in Park Hill that represents 29 days in reserves of operating cash, and so that's a month, and that's a good sign. This is a function of our 18 to 22% metric. That's referring to what our fund balance is in July, and so you see that it goes all the way down to 8% in December, and 8% for us is roughly about a month of operating cash. So those seem to be good signs. Having a month in reserves is a good metric, I think, to hit. So I think those are where we've set those fund balances is good. That's depicted down here in that graphic about what our fund balance does over time. You see the last 4 years of our fund balance month over month. The other fund balances and debt service, there's just a different set there. We're going to have our large expenditure in debt service that will occur in February, and so that will drop, and that's planned. And then capital, you see that we have a large fund balance there. We are strategically building that up. That's going to help us supplement our summer projects, what we're calling Bundle 2, or those are schools that we have planned for improvements like we did at Renner and Prairie Point last summer. We've got a set of schools that are ready for next year, and so that fund balance will be used to supplement bond dollars for those projects. And then you can see our bond balance, $54 million, and that'll get spent out over the next 2 or 3 years as we wrap up our bond projects. Our investments are highlighted on the last page, and this will get even larger with the revenue that came in January, just as that we'll just have a large amount of interest opportunity in January, simply because of the tax revenue that comes in January. But we obviously strategically use that interest to help supplement the budget, so those numbers are healthy, and that's a good sign for us, is to earn interest and use the money that we earn on our fund balances. So I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions, board? All right, well, thank you as always for your team putting these together for us.
Thank you.
Your explanations. Then I will need a motion and a second to accept the receipt of the December 2024 Treasurer's Information Report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Barnes and a second by Ms. Boland to accept receipt of the December 2024 Treasurer's Information Report as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstained? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right, we do have some information items tonight. Items 7.1 through 7.6 are relative to bids, contracts, and agreements. 7.7 through 7.10 are relative to curriculum. Dr. Kimmerl, are there any items you want to highlight?
No, none tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
There's just a couple of cool things in there I wanted to highlight for the first read. All the weight room equipment for 2 weight rooms and the weight room at the aquatic centers is in there. And then at Angeline, Washington, we are purchasing an entire library's worth of books. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty impressive if you want to look at that list. So we will vote on that at the next board meeting. All right, now we're on to item 8, policies, procedures, and forms. Mr. Fulgham will come up here to the stand. We have 2 policies and 1 procedure that have been submitted as information items tonight. We also have 2 policies that will require board action. Mr. Fulgham, will you provide a brief overview at this time for us?
Sure, thank you. We do have a few new items, they're information items tonight. I think they're relatively straightforward, but the one I did want to highlight is policy IKF, graduation requirements. It's just one change, an addition in there, but it's language reflecting the fact that we are working as a district towards offering a seal of biliteracy. So one step in that process is a DESE requirement. As part of our application, we're required to update our board policy to reflect that seal and that offering. So that's one step on this road, and just wanted to highlight that for you. But I'm happy to answer any other questions you have about the changes.
All right, any questions for policies we're taking action on tonight, or the information? Are you going to go over the information ones as well?
That was one of the information, and I gave an overview of
right.
the action ones last time, but am happy to cover if there's any additional questions there.
Okay.
Has there been any comments sent in on those policies?
No, been through policy committee, and no concerns or anything of note.
All right, then I'll need a motion and a second to adopt policy 8.4 and amend current policy 8.5 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Barber and a second by Ms. Boland to adopt policy 8.4 and amend policy 8.5 as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 6-0. The board will be asked to take action on policies 8.1 and 8.2 at the February 3rd, 2025 regular meeting. And 8.3 is information only.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fulgham. All right, we'll now move on to board member reports and requests. Board, do you have any reports or requests tonight? Ms. Boland?
None, thank you.
Mrs. Barber?
None, thank you.
Ms. Barnes?
Just our legislation is back in session, so just as they have so many bills and different things that they are already have brought up, just for you to pay attention and see what's on there that affects our community and education, and contact your representatives if you feel, whatever way you feel about it.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Mr. Todd?
None tonight, thank you.
Ms. Woodley?
Yeah, kind of quickly, I just wanted to say something. As you know, most of you know, I work for the Department of Army's Command and General Staff College and do editing. And I was working through editing, and the theme of adaptation and innovation was coming across through our course coming up. And I thought about that while going through the board packet of what we're going through coming up. And like Park Hill School District is like our armed forces in a way, having to be able to adapt to the needs of situations and those that we serve, which is our students and staff. We have to be innovative to continue the good work that we are doing and in our governance of fiscal responsibilities. We have to continue to provide opportunities and expansive curriculum and better learning environments and quality staff and teachers. So with tonight of us approving the tax levy increases for propositions G to increase teacher pay and O for obligation bonds to improve facilities across the district tonight is definitely a step in that direction. This is Park Hill being proactive. In that same vein of improving the district, I want to emphasize the importance and continuance of removing barriers to student learning from my previous requests that are in progress, especially one of having all teachers fully understand and buy into the necessity of culturally responsive education that academic services, along with our outstanding instructional coaches, have diligently been packaging and deploying for successful learning for all of our students. And the second is reviewing the policy to expand the removal of cell phones at the secondary level. Public education is being attacked, and we have to go on the offensive to ensure that our community, families, students, and staff continue to flourish. I've requested updates on these two areas and hope that we can have some feedback after we launch the ballot initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Woodley. On January 14th, I had the privilege of attending the DEIB Coalition of Building Councils. It was an amazing event. It was cold, but we had a full house over at Lead Innovation Center. Basically, it was people from the district council, but then all of the building councils were pulled together. And it was a great night of collaboration. And I think almost between what worked and even what didn't work, I think the collaboration between those two ideas were both very impactful and very helpful. I think I had to leave 10 minutes after it ended, and all the buildings had broke out into little groups, and they were still there going strong 10 minutes after it ended, and we had been there for 2 hours already. So that was an amazing event. So I just wanted to report back on that. And then just quickly, the E in DEIB is equity. And tonight we approved the program evaluation for student health services. And just quickly in there, we do vision screenings, 5,622 screenings with 490 referrals, and then 4,003 hearing tests with 32 referrals. Equity is defined by breaking down barriers to give each people what they need, or our students what they need, and being able to see the board or hear your teacher is very important. That's what those kids need. So I know that's every year that's included in there, but I'm just so heartwarmed and proud of that. So that's Tammy, good job. So yeah, that's my reports tonight. Okay, then I'll need a motion and a second to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Chapter 610, Section 021 of the revised Missouri statute for the purpose of discussing matters relevant to subsections 1, legal, 6, student, and 3 and 13, personnel.
Seconded.
I have a motion from Ms. Boland and a second by Mr. Todd to adjourn to closed session to discuss legal, student, and personnel matters. Ms. Blakely, are you calling the roll tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Barber,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bolin,
Yes.
Terwilliger,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
All right, board members.